All right, hello everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Bronze Age comic book podcast, Flea Market Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Mike L., and as always, I'm joined by...
Michael Dell of the LCS Hockey Radio Show.
That's right, and this week is your pick, so why don't you tell everybody what we are reviewing?
Well, it is election season here in the United States, Mike L., and I wanted to go back to 1976, Howard the Duck, issue 8. It focuses on Howard and his run for president.
That's right. Yep.
It's pretty good. Now, Michael, you said I have never read any Howard the Duck until now. This is the first. But you said you had read Howard the Duck and you didn't like it?
So, long story short, I got into Steve Gerber because Steve Gerber wrote for the G.I. Joe and Transformers cartoons.
Yes.
So that's how I first knew him, and then I got into some of his comics like Fool Killer, and he did some Defenders, right? He did Omega the Unknown, and that was all really good. And so I just went. This was back in my collecting days where I would go to a comic convention and I would come home with, I'm talking like 100 back issues, without even, and then like these would sit and just collect dust until I had time to read them. And so for years, I had every Howard the Duck 1 to 33 or whatever it was. Finally, one day I sat down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to read these suckers. And I got about to this point and I just gave up. It's not that I didn't like them, but obviously it's supposed to be kind of a satire, but I didn't really find it funny. And there's a character, I don't think it's Beverly. I think it's another girl in the book that has like a speech impediment. So she can't pronounce the letter R.
Okay.
So she would, so that was like her shtick, was like Howard, and everything was like dropping the R's. And I don't know, I struggled to make it to the Star Wars parody issue, and I just gave up. And then I ended up selling them to my friend Ricky for like $1 each.
I didn't even know there was a Star Wars parody issue.
Yeah, it's coming up. It's like number, 9 or 10 or something, I think.
Well, Michael, do you know what happens in issue 12? On the last panel of issue 12.
Oh, yes, because I had that one. That's where Kiss makes their first comic book appearance. Yep.
Michael loves Kiss.
I love Kiss.
Yes. They show up at the end of 12 and then a few pages on 13 as well. But,
yep, and then they also had their own 2 super specials from Marvel, and I used to have those too.
But I believe in Howard was their very first appearance in comic books.
That's right.
Yeah, so how about that? Anyway, all right, so this is Howard the Duck. Now, Michael, I'm sure you've seen the movie Howard the Duck, correct?
When I was a little kid, my next door neighbor, Brett Reno, was obsessed with it. He used to watch it all the time.
Yeah, 1986 it came out. I actually saw it in the theaters when I was an 11-year-old lad.
Really?
I was so excited to go see this. I was like, oh, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and you're like, what's this Marvel thing? I got to check this out.
All I knew of Howard the Duck, because I never read any of the books, but throughout the 70s, in old, old Spider-Man stuff and Captain America, there'd be a lot of Marvel ads for Howard the Duck. Like, when they would show, they would peddle subscriptions, they would have like an advertisement inside the book. Like, you could subscribe, cut out the ad, send it in with $3 or whatever, subscribe to books. Howard was always, like, featured in those ads, or he was one of the characters featured. They used to always show like Dracula too, and who else? Conan. Those are like the 70s non-superhero books that came out because of the Bronze Age.
Right. You're right. It was a funny time, because there was these they were very prominent in the forefront, but by the time we were growing up, they were completely forgotten, right?
Yeah.
Like Howard the Duck, Spider-Woman, Power Man and Iron Fist, they were kind of gone by the time I started reading comics.
So even though I had no history of Howard the Duck beside those advertisements, I was very excited to go see this movie. We went to go see the movie, and the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. This is going to be so good. All right, any minute now, it's going to start getting really good. Any minute. And it just never got good. It was terrible. Even as an 11-year-old, I was like, oh, this sucks. Yeah.
Yep. But at least Leah Thompson was in it, right?
Yeah, Leah Thompson and Liz Segal as well. She was one of the band members of.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Not Katie Segal, but Liz, the younger sister, the twins from Double Trouble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway, Um, so that's Howard the Duck. The movie, it was directed. George Lucas was an executive producer. It was directed by some fella, and his wife wrote the screenplay. This guy and his wife were kind of like a combo. They had done American Graffiti. They did Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Then they did Howard the Duck.
Oh, yes. That's right. Gloria Katz and Willard Houck, right? That's right.
Yep. And so, yeah, not so good. But I guess the problem was I don't think Gloria there, that's her name, Gloria Katz? Is that what it was?
I think so, yeah.
I don't think she really understood Howard the Duck, or like, because they asked her what, she's like, it's just a duck from outer space. It's going to be goofy. And that's how she wrote it. She didn't quite get the concept of Howard the Duck. So the movie, if you saw the movie Howard the Duck, that is absolutely nothing like the comic books. Not even remotely close to the comic books. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's a good thing, that the comic books are not like that film. The movie, the budget for that movie was like $37 million, and it grossed $15 million. So it took a
yikes
bit of a failure there at the box office. All right, so Howard the Duck, his real name, Mike. They say it's his real name, but he goes by Howard Duckson. Howard Duckson.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
And, do you know where his first appearance was?
Oh, it was Fear. Right? Well, the full title was, what is it?
Adventure into Fear.
Adventure into Fear.
Number 19.
It was like, okay, 19, yep.
1973. That's impressive, Michael, that you knew that. And he wasn't named in that issue. And then he first was named in Man-Thing 1, 1974, because that continued the story from Adventure into Fear. And Howard the Duck, of course, was created by Steve Gerber. And the artist was Val Mayerick.
Right.
Mayerick. I have no knowledge of Val Mayerick.
I don't really know him, but I think, didn't he do some Conan or something?
Sure. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
Now, when Howard got his own series, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But Howard comes from the planet Duck World, which is in another universe. And the demon Thog the Netherspawn shifted the cosmic axis, and this caused Howard to fall out of his universe and into our world. He landed in the Florida Everglades, which apparently is like the nexus of all intersecting universes.
Okay.
Florida Everglades. So he joined with Man-Thing and some other folks to fight this Thog the Netherspawn, and during that battle, he actually died. It appeared that Howard died. He fell into some void, some cosmic void, because Roy Thomas, our beloved Roy Thomas, hated Howard the Duck.
Oh, really? Why?
He was the editor, and Gerber. The whole point of Howard was just to be a visual joke of just this duck that shows up and starts cracking wise, and like, wait, what the hell's going on? A duck? And that was the whole point, just to get a talking duck. And Roy Thomas just hated him. He told him to kill him as quickly as possible. So they had him fall off into a void. But then it turns out that the readers loved Howard. And really? Roy Thomas claims someone even sent him a dead duck in the mail to protest Howard the Duck being fired. And I guess when Stan Lee went on his little college campus tours to talk to the kids, everyone was asking him about Howard the Duck. So they brought Howard back. And he appeared in some other issues of, I think, Man-Thing. Or maybe there's some crossover. I don't know. He was in a couple other issues, and then they eventually gave him his own book. But they explained that when he fell into that cosmic void, he popped up in Cleveland then. So his adventure started in Cleveland.
That's great.
So Howard the Duck, the regular series that we're reading today, started in 1976, and it ran in 1979, and then they brought it back in 86, I guess, with the movie. For 2 issues.
Right.
And then they canceled it because, the movie was such a bomb. I guess they're like, what's the point of doing this?
But even those 2 issues were like 10 months apart or something. One was January and one was September. I just looked at those up today.
Do you know who drew that first issue back?
Oh. I can't remember. It was completely different from Gene Colan, though, but I can't remember who it was.
One of our beloved artists.
Michael Golden.
Nope, not Michael Golden.
No.
Paul
Okay,
Smith.
who?
Paul Smith.
Right. Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. But Michael Golden does pop up here when we talk about Howard in a minute.
Okay.
So the main run was 31 issues. We're reading issue 8 today. Marvel did not have high hopes for issue 1, and they printed 275,000 copies, which was the minimum for print run for a regular comic book, colored comic book. 275,000 copies. How much?
Wow.
I know we've talked about this before in the past on the show. Like a really high popular book today sells maybe $100,000. Do you know what a print run is? Like a minimum print run?
I don't know if there is a minimum, but I know that a lower selling book would be like 30,000.
But that's how many they sell. But how many do they print?
I don't know. It's also different, right? Because back then they overprinted everything.
Yeah.
And then newsstands, whatever they didn't sell, they would just tear off the cover and send them back, and they get their money back. But the whole point of comic shops with direct sales is you keep everything you buy.
Yeah, things have changed. So back in the day, like they would pretty much for like a run of like 400,000 books, they would have to sell 200,000, get half back. Right. It was like a 50%, which just seems weird. But that's what they said it was. So the issue sold out. First issue of Howard the Duck sold out, all 275,000 copies. But the thing was, Michael, it was collectors that were hoarding the book. And
the beginning of the speculators.
It kind of kept it from getting into the reader's hands. And the going price within a year for the book that had a 25-cent cover price, collectors were trying to sell it for $12.50. $12.50. So
okay.
That probably hurt Howard in the long run that not that many people got to read issue 1. It was initially a bi-monthly title, but it came monthly with issue 7. And those early books all had a print run of 400,000 then after issue 1. They ramped up the production.
Okay.
Do you know the artist for the first 2 issues, Micah?
It wasn't Gene Colan?
Nope.
Huh.
It was Frank Bruner. Remember our buddy Frank Bruner?
Oh, from Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, our buddy Bob introduced us to Frank Bruner on Doctor Strange.
Right.
Yeah, he did the first 2 issues of Howard the Duck. And then he was pissed, though, at Gerber because Gerber always had trouble meeting deadlines. And, like, he would send the scripts to Frank in, like, piecemeal fashion, like 3 pages here, 4 pages there. And Bruner hated that because he said he didn't know how to pace the issue, like where to put the big scenes and stuff, like the big art pieces. So he didn't like that. And then Marvel also had a procedure of giving back the art to the creators. Like the writer would get 2 pages of original art. The artist and inker would then get the rest or whatever. They'd divide those up. But usually the writers in the day would just give the art back to the artists, because it's like, it's not our art. But Gerber kept all the art.
Oh, and okay.
That pissed off Bruner. He wasn't a fan of that. And then he also asked Marvel for a bump in pay after doing the second issue, and they said no. So he said, all right, I'm not doing any more. So he only did the first 2. And after him, John Buscema came in to draw issue 3.
Really?
I believe that was the Quack Fu issue, where he's the master of Quack Fu. And then Gene Colan came in, and he was the regular guy from then on.
Gotcha. Okay.
Gerber wrote the first 27 issues of Howard, and he took over as editor with issue 9, and that, of course, gave him more creative control. And it seems like Marvel did that as a way to appease Gerber after they screwed him by taking away the Defenders from him, because this was... I don't know if you remember this story, but this was after Jerry Conway was editor-in-chief, and then he stepped down, and he signed a deal with Marvel to write 8 books, and they had to find 8 books for him to write, so they took Defenders away from Gerber and gave it to Jerry Conway, which is a little crazy.
That's ridiculous.
So they're like, well, if we let Gerber be editor on Howard, maybe that'll calm him down. And the thing with him, once Gerber was the editor, like really there was no one overseeing what he was doing, so he got away with some stuff. He just did whatever he wanted. In fact, there's I think it's issue 16. You familiar with this one where he said he was moving to I think L.A. or something, or Las Vegas, or I forget where. Probably Las Vegas. and he just had writer's block. He couldn't come up with a story for Howard, so he just wrote a long, rambling text about how what it's like to be a writer of comic books.
Oh yes, looking at it now, Zen and the art of comic book
Yeah.
writing.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's not a comic. It's just like large text sections with picture. Well, it's like a picture on the page for the whole issue. It seems like that would be a lot harder to write than just a normal Howard story, but whatever.
Yeah, jeez. That's funny.
So in 1977, though, Michael, Disney threatened to sue Marvel for copyright infringement. Because I don't know if you noticed, but in this issue, Howard looks a lot like Donald the Duck. Just an angry Donald the Duck.
Right.
And this is when he looked his best. Like, this is when I think Howard the Duck, this is what I think of. How he looks here. Yeah. He looks awesome here. But Disney stepped in and said, hey, it was particularly troublesome in the overseas market because, like, the way it got translated, Duck and Duck, since Duck was in Howard's name, people were thinking they were buying, Donald Duck, and they were getting Howard the Duck.
Right.
So they didn't sue Marvel, but they said, hey, Marvel, if you don't do something about this, we probably will sue you. So Marvel cooperated, and they just had Disney redesign the character the way they wanted. So they just let Disney animators do it. Disney came up with the redesign, and they kind of made his head, Howard's head, rounder, the bill shorter and fatter, his eyes smaller. They made him like shorter and fatter. Instead of webbed feet, he had toes. And the big thing, though, Michael, was Disney said Howard had to wear pants.
Really?
He had to wear pants. So Marvel said, all right, they agreed to everything. And John Romita Sr. sent out, he's the art director. He sent out the message with all the details to the artist, like, hey, you got to draw him like this. So naturally, Steve Gerber ignored all of it.
Okay.
And I think in issue 21, I think that was the issue where Howard, there's some citizens activist group who's mad at Howard for not wearing pants. They say it's obscene that he's not wearing pants. And so they put him in pants. And then by the end of the issue, he ditches the pants. And Howard never wore pants in an issue that Steve Gerber wrote. So it wasn't until Gerber left the title that they put him in pants. Gerber at the same time was also writing a Howard the Duck newspaper strip, which I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah.
But it was from 1977 to 78. But he was taken off the strip due to lateness, and then he sued Marvel about it because he said that violated the contract they had with Marvel, that they couldn't just take him off the book and have someone else write it. Right. Or take him off the strip and have someone else write it. But here's the thing. He was just, he always had trouble meeting deadlines. And like back then they wanted to have the comic strips like 6 weeks out, before they published them for 6 weeks. And Gerber was giving them to him a few days before. So it was a problem. So he wanted to sue Marvel because he had a unique deal with Marvel, like, because they did a marketing thing when Howard ran for president. They printed up buttons. And they were selling them. And so he had a different contract. And he had some deal with Marvel that says he would always get first, choice of writing Howard or whatever. I don't know. Sure. But so he thought he had extra protection and when they fired him, so they sued him. And then Jim Shooter said, well, if you're suing us, we're not going to keep paying you, so you can sue us. So he fired him as well. And Gerber is also having trouble meeting the deadlines for their book. And when he signed his new contract with Marvel a couple years before this, the deal was that he had to produce 51 pages of comics a month, basically 3 issues. And he was writing Captain America at this time too, and then he would do fill-in issues or whatever to make up to the 51. But by this point, he had lost Captain America, and he wasn't doing anything else. So technically, he was in violation of his contract. So they just fired him, and he was real pissed about it. So what else? Marvel relaunched. Oh, so after the book ended in issue 31, Gerber left in 27. The series lasted till 31, and then it ended for a while. But then Marvel relaunched Howard the Duck as a bi-monthly black and white magazine the same year. Right. And the writers there were Bill Mantlo and Marv Wolfman. And the main artist was Gene Colan, but Michael Golden was there as well. He
Right.
did,
Okay.
I think he may have just did one issue, but
Okay.
there it is. Now, an artist, do you know some artist named Stephen Bissett?
Oh yeah, of course. He did Swamp Thing.
Oh, that's right. We did talk about him.
Yeah.
I knew the name sounded familiar, but I couldn't remember.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is a quote from him about Gerber and Howard the Duck. Quote, Howard the Duck was Steve Gerber, a direct, vital extension of his very self. Cut off from his creator, Howard is a meaningless, empty, corporate-owned image, only as good as the creators employed to breathe life into him, and none of those who followed in Gerber's footsteps ever came close. End quote. And I think that pretty much sums up Howard the Duck, because this really is Gerber's baby. You know, this was his creation.
Right.
It was his voice.
Right.
If you read Howard the Duck and Gerber, it's completely different than Howard the Duck written by anyone else. Can you think of another character that's so synonymous with its creator? Like, I know obviously some guys write Batman or Spider-Man better, but I don't know if Stan Lee and Spider-Man, but still there have been other great Spider-Man writers.
Sure.
Where this is like Steve Gerber and that's it. Like no one really ever matched anything close.
That's a good question. Wow. I don't know. I'd have to think about that because ironically, there's a lot of characters that are more defined by later writers. You know, like for example, Deadpool, for example, who I've tweeted to Rob Liefeld many times that Deadpool's personality was created by Joe Kelly. And whenever anyone else but Joe Kelly writes Deadpool, it just seems like a pale imitation, you know?
Why are you tweeting Rob Liefeld about that?
Well, because he's an asshole. I got to put him in his place. It's a long story.
You an asshole by tweeting him?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess I'm a troll. But anyway, no, it's because Rob Liefeld has a habit of bragging and putting down other creators. Like, he basically insulted Fabian Nicieza and said that he doesn't have the right to be called the co-creator because he was just the writer on the book. He said if the janitor was there, he would have been considered the co-creator. He called Tom Brevoort fat on Twitter. He's just kind of an asshole, you know? But anyway.
Well, keep that in mind, though, in a minute, because we'll get into a similar issue here with Gerber. All right, okay. So, but the thing to know about Howard the Duck is these issues that Gerber wrote, they were social satire. They parodied comics and pop culture. And Gerber said there really was no joke. The joke was that there was no joke. Quote, that life's most serious moments and most incredibly dumb moments are often distinguishable only by a momentary point of view. So it's just the perspective on real or everyday life. And that's why Howard can deliver it, because he's from Duck World. He's not from this world. So he goes around the earth noticing all everyday things and just how bizarre and stupid they are. Right. And he points it out, you know? And Howard says he's stuck in a world of hairless apes. That's what he calls humans.
Right.
Hairless apes. So on August 29th, 1980, Gerber sued Marvel for ownership rights of Howard the Duck. Mm-hmm. And this was one of the first major creators' rights cases. The lawsuit was settled in September of 1982 with Marvel owning all rights and Gerber admitting that he did the work it was work for hire and that Marvel was the true owner of all the rights. But it was settled, so in exchange for Gerber saying that, Marvel gave him some benefits and some concessions behind the scenes, but Gerber could never talk about the deal that they made. But over the years, it seems like basically what happened was he got a cut of some royalties for Howard, and he got like a favored nations clause with Howard, meaning he could maybe get first crack at rating Howard or stuff like that. And what else did I want to say about this? But basically, this little deal that they cut, it's pretty much what Marvel gave all creators after like 1978.
Okay.
It's because they had to redo their deals, but Gerber had signed his original contract before then. So like he created Howard in 73 under the work for hire. And if you go through, there's a fella, there's an article I read here by a guy named R.S. Martin. And the article is entitled All Quacked Up, Steve Gerber, Marvel Comics, and Howard the Duck. And he goes all through the history of Howard and Gerber and the lawsuit. And basically Gerber had no legs to stand on in the lawsuit because he had signed multiple contracts giving Marvel the rights, like never arguing that the fact that Marvel didn't own the rights. Particularly with that button they produced for Howard's presidential run. So yeah, Gerber was pretty much screwed in terms of the lawsuit, but he still tried, and I guess it's a huge initial step for creators in trying to get their rights. And in order to raise money to keep the lawsuit going, he teamed up with Jack Kirby and did Destroyer Duck, an anthology book that raised money for his lawsuit. And Destroyer Duck is just another duck hero, but he was like more like a Rambo or like an Arnold Schwarzenegger action hero.
Right. Yeah, I had that too at one point.
So when Gerber was out of Marvel, he did some animated series, and he created Thundar the Barbarian.
That's right, yep.
And we talked about Thundar before, but Jack Kirby and Alex Toth worked on Thundar in the art design. And then, as you mentioned earlier, he did some G.I. Joe and Transformer stuff. And even later than that, he did Batman the Animated Series as well.
Ah, yes, that's right.
So Marvel continued the Howard series in 1986, like we said, with 2 issues. And they actually asked Gerber to write a script for it. And he submitted a script. And they revised it. And when he got back, the revised copy back, he hated it. He's like, you changed everything. And he would not let them use the script. And he said, no, I'm just going to leave. But the issue was, Jim Shooter was still editor-in-chief here. And it goes back to what you were saying about Rob Liefeld making fun of other creators. Because Gerber basically shit on everything that Mantlo and Marv Wolfman did in the story.
Okay.
And Shooter said, well, you can't do that. You know, you can, like, ignore the continuity stuff that they did, but don't, like, shit on it and, like, retcon it, you know? And Gerber knew this going in. He still did it anyway. And then when they revised it, he got pissed. So, you know, what can you do? I guess his premise was that Galactus ate the duck world, and he threw up. Okay. Because all the stuff that Phil Mantlo wrote was so bad that he threw up.
Okay.
So that got him mad. So he didn't write for Howard. And then after Shooter left Marvel, Gerber actually did get to write Howard again with the Sensational She-Hulk issues 4 through 17. He had Howard guest star in there. And then in 1986, Gerber did a Spider-Man team-up with Howard in Spider-Man. But at the same time, he was doing a Savage Dragon and Destroyer Duck crossover for Image.
Right.
And do you know this story? Like what he did?
Yeah, I think he had something about there was like another Howard the Duck, or his soul entered another character or something. I don't know what happened. Or there was a clone, or I don't remember. Yes,
it's a clone issue here. So he did this without telling anybody.
Okay.
He put he had the artist put Destroyer the Duck and Savage Dragon in like the background of the Marvel issue of the Spider-Man Howard crossover or whatever. And then in his Savage Dragon Destroyer Duck book, he had it that they rescued Howard and Beverly from that scene that they were in.
Okay.
Where Howard was a clone. And he was saying that Savage Dragon and Destroyer Duck had rescued the true Howard and Beverly, and the Marvel universe only had clones of them.
That's awesome.
That the true Howard was now in creator-owned books like Image and Savage Dragon. So.
Wow. Okay. So did he use Howard the Duck after that at Image?
No, he did not.
Okay.
But I guess it was just a way to undermine Marvel from ever using him again, because if they did, he would just say, well, that's a clone of Howard. That's not the real Howard.
Right. Okay.
And it was kind of, I forget who the artist was who did the Marvel issue that Gerber did that. But the fact that Gerber didn't tell him he was going to do that, it really pissed off the artist. He's like, I could have got fired. You know, they could have been pissed at me and took it out on me. And so that's a valid point.
A rascal. Yeah.
But they did not fire the guy, but still. All right, so in 2002, Gerber wrote Howard the Duck for Marvel again, though. And
yes.
There's a Max imprint, 6-issue limited series. I guess, what was Max? It was like an adult brand
kind
for
of,
Marvel?
yeah. Yeah, it was like their Vertigo, kind of.
Yeah. Now, did you read these?
That's the one where he's a mouse, right?
Yeah, because I guess this goes back to the whole Disney making him redesign the character. He never liked that, so he's like, why don't we just make him a mouse? It'll be the same thing.
Right. Yeah, I think
Um,
I read those years ago. Yeah, they were pretty good from what I remember.
and I guess the series ends with Howard talking to God about what it means to be a creator and what it means to be a creation. And then sadly,
Okay,
in
right.
2008, Gerber died of a lung disease. He was 60 years old. 60 years.
And he was also in the middle of, this is not Howard the Duck related, but he was in the middle of writing a series for DC called it was a Doctor Fate. It wasn't about Doctor Fate. It was about the helmet of Doctor Fate. I think it was called the
Okay.
Helmet of Fate or something.
All right.
And I think each issue was kind of like not auditioning, but kind of like trying to find a new person to don the helmet. And I think because he died, other writers like Mark Waid or whoever finished it for him. So it was kind of nice of them.
Yeah, and again, a really good article to read about this is All Quacked Up, Steve Gerber, Marvel Comics, and Howard the Duck by R.S. Martin. So, all right, so
I'll have to check that
that's
out.
the
Yeah.
that's the Steve Gerber connection to Howard. The artist here in this issue is Gene Colan, and he did 23 of the original 31 issues, and then he did 8 of the 9 magazine issues, the black and whites. So Gene Colan, quite synonymous with Howard the Duck. And he was
Nice,
also
yeah.
drawing the newspaper strip as well for a while.
Wow. Okay.
There you go. All right, that's Howard. Any questions about Howard, Michael? Anything I didn't mention?
Well, only that he did appear in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think
That's
the
right.
first movie at the end, right? And I
And
mean,
if you
there's
notice,
rumors they're gonna.
I'm sorry, but if you notice
Oh,
in that cameo,
he's
Michael,
got pants.
he's wearing pants and he's got toes instead of web feet.
Really? Okay.
So it's just
That's
what Disney.
got to be an in joke, right? Because Disney owns Marvel now, so it doesn't even matter, right?
But did they own them then? When did that
Yes,
come out?
because
2012.
they bought Marvel right after Iron Man 1, I think. So
Okay. Yeah, so I guess they're still keeping it going though. But they need to go back to his original Donald Duck look. That's when Howard's the best.
right,
Chomping
I
the
agree.
cigar, just an angry Donald the Duck.
right.
Yep.
I agree.
All right, the other main character in Howard, of course, is Beverly Switzler. Beverly Switzler, his female sidekick. Her first appearance was Howard the Duck 1, 1976, created by Gerber and Frank Bruner. And she was a life model? A life model. Like a life... What's the word I'm looking... But like in art classes, she would
Oh
pose for
yeah,
people.
whatever
Live,
they're called. Yeah,
I don't know, whatever.
yeah, I know what you mean.
But that's what she was doing in Cleveland, and then she was abducted by an evil sorcerer / accountant named Pro Rata, and Howard stumbles across them somehow, and he rescues her. And Spider-Man's also in that issue, Mike. Did you ever read that, Spider-Man?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah, Howard the Duck 1, Spider-Man's in there. So
Okay. Well, I must have read it. It's number 1. I read it then. Yeah.
that's like the gimmick back in the day. Because remember we did the Human Fly one, they put Spider-Man in there too, just to get kids to buy it. Spider-Man.
Right.
So. So all right, that's Howard the Duck. So now issue 8. Howard is running for president under the all-night party. That's the party, all night party. Get it, Mike? Out a little gimmick, the all-night party. Get it?
Yeah, I get it. Yep.
So that brings us to the issue. All right, let's talk about the cover, Micah.
So yeah, we got 30 cents is the price. We got a little corner box here with Howard, with a big smile on his face, with a stogie hanging out of his mouth like usual. And then the tagline, "Trapped in a world he never made." And then, of course, the logo, Howard the Duck. And then we have a newspaper, Howard punching his way through it, right?
Yep.
And then the headline is Howard for President, or Howard for Prez. And then there's there's other stories on the page. Carter yells foul.
Yeah,
And then
FOWL. Foul.
right. Assassination attempt defended by gunmen. And then also there's a little logo, like a little sub headline, Howard and 76 get down America. And then that's it.
Yeah, but also the assassination attempt by the gunman. Underneath the picture, there's a quote from the. I thought he was in season. Explains prisoner. Yeah, it was duck season. He's hunting duck.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that. Yep. That's cool.
Yeah, Howard's campaign slogan was "Get Down America" because they originally wanted to be "Stand Up America," and he said, "No,
okay.
Get Down America." I love this cover, Michael, but there's and I love the little Howard in the character box under the price. That is tremendous, and he's like stepping out of the box too. The cigar, just awesome. But there is one problem I have with this cover, Michael.
One problem. Should I try and figure it out?
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can. But
okay, what is it?
Do you see under the U in duck? There's a scrap of paper colored yellow.
Yes.
Like clearly that is meant to be colored white, like it was a piece of the paper busting after Howard ripped through it.
Yes, true.
But if you color it yellow, like the background behind the logo, it makes it look like there's a tear in the newspaper. But that's not what was intended there. It's not supposed to be a tear in the paper. So that really bothers me. Really bothers
but
other than that, his cover is spectacular.
It is. Yeah, it's good. It's really solid, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about this later, but I've always been a Gene Colan fan, but this is actually better than average Gene Colan. This is really good. Yeah,
I agree. And because we had Gene Colan a couple times on the show. What was the first one? I can't. Oh, it was Submariner. Then we did Wonder Woman, and if you recall, I said that his art does not match Wonder Woman, but his art is perfect for Howard the Duck because it's very like it's more realistic. A lot of heavy shadowing, of course, with Gene Colan, but the fact that everything else is depicted so realistically, and then you have a cartoon duck at the center, makes it even. Because if like everything else is cartoony, Howard doesn't seem as special, you know. But if everything else is real and gritty, and then you have Howard in the middle, it's awesome. It's great.
I agree. Yep.
All right, Michael. So the big splash page, open season. That's the title.
Yeah.
Open season. And we're looking through a sniper's scope here at Howard and Beverly leaving the Sanctum's. What's it called? Doctor Strange's thing?
The Sanctum Sanctorium.
Yeah. Whatever it is. They're shaking hands with Doctor Strange. I guess their previous adventure involved Doctor Strange, and they're on their way. They're leaving. So.
Yep, and then it says open season, and then they're basically walking along chatting, and then we see the gunman fire, and then we see a body fall, but then
because when we see the first gun shoot, blam, we just see the barrel of the rifle. Then we see Beverly turn around and say Howard, and you think, oh my God, they shot Howard, but no, another body's falling out of the sky next to him.
Right, because there's actually. So that's one gunman, but there's actually another gunman that shot that gunman.
Yes.
Right. So they're trying to figure out what's going on, and then they basically cut to this really cool shot of the gunman leaping away, right? And then the story follows that gunman as he runs into a third gunman who's like kind of like in this alley, and they start fighting, and they realize that he's like, what is he? They explain what's going on. Are you here to kill him too? You kidding? Every hitman in the city's after that bird. Well, if competition's that stiff, count me out. Even 10 million ain't worth dying for. Right on, man. See ya. And then, not if I see you first. So then the second guy, the second guy turns around and shoots the first guy. So basically, everyone's trying to kill Howard the Duck, and then now 3 of them are dead.
Yeah, they shoot at each other there. Boom, boom. Kill each other. And Howard and Beverly hear the gunshots, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Are they shooting at us?
Right.
And so they need to get out of there. And then this guy drives up. I believe his name is Dusty Gulch. Is that what it is? Dusty Gulch?
Dreyfus Gulch.
Oh, Dreyfus Gulch.
Yeah.
But he's a country western singer, and he was in the previous issue. He was supposed to sing at the All Night Parties convention. And he had picked up Howard along the way. And then I guess Howard, like he just picked him up as a hitchhiker because of Beverly, I guess. But I guess when they got to the convention, Howard won everybody over, so they nominated him as their candidate, I think. Okay. That's how it went. So here Dreyfus Gulch is picking them up again in his limousine, his bulletproof limousine. And they just get inside, and all these hitmen jump out and start shooting at the limo.
Right, there's like 3 more of them, yeah. It's funny.
So
then he brings them home to like his house.
Yeah, it's like campaign headquarters, I guess, for Howard.
Right. Yeah. So then they go inside and they see his staff are all working there, and there's like posters like Howard Prez, Stand Up America, Vote Howard the Duck in '76, Howard for president. But they're basically, he's already pissed off because they're deciding his campaign for him, and he's like, oh, who's in charge of this? He's whose warped mind is responsible for this hokum? GQ Studley himself engineered the campaign, Howie. And he's like, okay, I want to talk to this guy. So then he goes in, the secretary answers, and then he goes, and then.
She says he's in a meeting, he can't be disturbed or whatever.
Yeah,
and
right.
He's in a conference. And Howard jumps up to get the switchboard off her desk, and she starts wrestling with him. And I love that she's wrestling with Howard, like he's just a duck. and she's totally manhandling him. But she's like,
it's
Mad
hilarious.
Duck, Mad
That's
Duck.
a really good panel. Yeah.
And again, Howard thought that running for president was all kind of a joke. He didn't really mean it. Like, he just agreed to it because, I guess, I don't know, he wanted to get out of there or whatever. But they're actually running with it and running this campaign for him. So he wants to figure out what's going on.
Right. So then they come out of the meeting and they bring him in and they're trying to show him kind of what they're thinking here. And then he's like, okay, so to ensure, okay, sorry, I'm trying to find a good spot to jump in. For that, we need this and your total cooperation. Not that we haven't made remarkable strides already. Of the three major candidates, Howard's assassination quotient is by far the highest, an unprecedented 7.97. That's good? And they're comparing him to Ford and Carter, right?
Yes.
And there's a little graph with like machine guns on it, and Howard's is the highest. And he's like, good, it's great. It means people care. And here's every syllable Howard will utter with an earshot of a reporter between now and November. And so basically it's just showing how they're just telling Howard what he's going to say. And she's like, Howard will never say this. And then they cut over to Howard, and now they've got like a jacket on him, and he's all like, he's got like this goofy face, and he's got a pipe. And
he's got giant fake teeth in as well.
Yeah, giant fake teeth. That's right. So then he bites the guy in the nose and leaves his fake teeth on the guy's nose.
Yep.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, this art's so good.
So they storm out, and the guy's like, who's going to run your campaign for you? Who's going to decide? And so Howard's like, I'll do it myself. And so he and Beverly go to a phone booth. And I love the panel of Beverly holding up Howard so he can read the phone book.
Yeah, that's great. Yep.
Like, dude, Gene Colan is killing it here. This is great stuff.
Yeah, this is so good.
And so they just find mad genius associates in the yellow pages. And Howard calls them up to run his campaign. So then we jump ahead to the campaign log in September. We see Walter Cronkite hosting the news, and we have pictures of Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and Howard right in the middle.
Right.
That's pretty good.
It's awesome. Yep. Yeah, and he's basically just they're kind of just, it's kind of like a montage where they're just going through, different things that are happening to him, and like his campaign rally, and then they show him on TV. And he's like going through his different sort of what is that called? His
political platform, his
platform, right. Like how he's going to deal with pollution, how he's going to deal with pollution from one square block in New York. Howard the Duck collected a steam shovel of non-returnable containers and brought them home to roost on the manufacturer's immaculate industrial mall. And we see him driving like not a pick. What are these called? Like not a scavenger, but like, whatever it's called.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Steam shovel or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's just going through all the different things that he's going to do. It's pretty funny.
Like he's telling the military industrial complex to save money, they all have to live in caves. Because,
right.
That's where they belong. And so that kind of stuff. He's basically shooting straight at the American people. Not pulling any punches.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then then they show the button, and they're going from there, kissing babies. and then we cut over to interlude, a chill October morning in Central Park. So this is really skipping ahead here. And then now Beverly's taking a walk through the park, and she runs across this guy. Oh, I love this part where she's like, she sees him walk up behind him, and she's like, "Freeze, Charlie! I took private lessons from Diana Rigg."
Yeah.
Who, of course, we all know from the Avengers TV show.
We talked about her on Flea Market Fantasy about 4 weeks ago, and then she died like a week later.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
The curse of flea market fantasy.
Yeah.
But Beverly's walking this park because she's getting stressed out with all the celebrity running for president, and she's not having much fun. She's getting stressed.
Right.
And she's kind of rethinking her life. And she runs across this guy, and he's like, "Hey, I'm just here to feed the ducks." She's like, all right.
Right, and then he's like, she's like, "Okay, we'll see you. Have fun with the ducks." And he's like, "Oh, I will. I really love ducks. In fact, I make it a point to throttle one every day." And he grabs one out of the little lake here, this little pond. Yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's after Howard as well. Everyone's after Howard. I want to kill Howard.
Right.
So next we go back to Dreyfus Gulch's house or political headquarters for Howard, and all the industrial people are there meeting with Howard, and they're all like bribing him. They're giving Beverly fur coats and jewelry, and they're trying to get Howard to play ball. You know.
Right.
And what does he tell him, Michael?
Lobbyists.
Yes, lobbyists.
He's like, in other words, you yo-yos want to do business. I veto a bill, then bill you for $200,000, right? Well, of course, there's no need to talk figures just yet. And then what happens after that?
Well, he kicks him out. He kicks him out.
He's basically like, screw this.
And they take the fur coat and the jewelry off Bev, and they're like basically threatening Howard. They're like, you have to kiss a lot of babies to countervail the damage you've done to yourself. And it seems like they're going to kill him still. You know,
right. Dead. So then we get to the weirdest part in the whole issue.
Oh, this is great. I think this is great.
Yeah, this is, and I don't know if he's done this more than once, but this was absolutely unheard of at the time. But we cut to a page that's half script and half just an image. So it's obviously not, it's like not something you'd see, typically at that time. But it's a partial transcript of nationally televised press conference. So this is Howard the Duck's press conference, and he basically just gives the rundown on how he feels about everything. He talks about education. He talks about the Vietnam War. He talks about everything. So it's pretty cool. And again, it's something you'd never see back then.
He just hammers the American society for all the things wrong with it. And again, he's shooting straight, telling it like it is. And it's crazy. This is written in 1976, 44 years ago, and it's still relevant today. Yeah. Everything he says is exactly true today.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was reading it. Yeah. And it's obviously...
You want to be happy and secure, yet you open yourselves to constant tension and pressure of society that claims to be free, but refuses to let you make a move without first filing forms and triplicate. You wonder why you got violence? Why you're young or either dissident, empty-headed, or drugged into stupor? It's because you fashioned an emotionally and intellectually sterile culture. That's why. That was zing. Howard sticking it to him. I love it. Love it.
Well, yeah, and obviously a mouthpiece for how Steve Gerber is probably thinking, right? So
yeah. This is Gerber.
So then after the press conference, we go back to our regularly scheduled comic book, and he's kind of walking out through the crowd, and someone hands him a doll to kiss, and the mother's like, "But you'll pucker up for my baby doll, won't you? I bought her for $5.95 on sale. Her name is Munitions," and it explodes. It's actually a bomb. And it blows. It blows Howard the Duck, backwards, but he's fine. And then like a big steel, what is this called? Like an I-beam thing, almost lands on him, almost kills him. And then so Beverly and Howard the Duck run away, and then a car smashes through the wall and almost kills them. And then someone else tries to spray gasoline on them. And then.
I'm sorry, but these are all symbolic of the different, the military-industrial complex with the bomb. The steel industry with the I-beam trying to kill him, the automobile industry with the driverless car trying to run him down, and then the gas and oil industry trying to kill him as well.
Right, and then as they're so then the guy with the gasoline, he's like, "I hear you like cigars, Duck. How about a light?" And then Howard grabs the thing, the nozzle, and shoves it in his mouth. He's like, "Sorry, I never accept light from a turkey with trapped gas." And then as they're walking away, the guy's trying to get it out of his mouth. It's funny. "Hurry, Ducky, our hotel's just around the corner."
Yeah, when you said turkey, it reminded me earlier in the book, there's a thing about him, being a duck running for president. He says, "Why can't a duck run for president? You've had turkeys running this country for 200 years.
Right. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, so they make it back to the safety of the hotel, and Dreyfus Gulch is there reading the newspaper. and but he's got some bad news for him, Mike. It shows in the paper.
Yeah, so basically there's a scandal now. Someone has faked a picture of him in a bathtub with Beverly. Which I don't know why that's such a bad thing, but... And then he's like, what? No, it's a phony, a frame up, and we're sunk in a bathtub. And it says, next, the bite of the beaver.
Yes.
Wow.
Double entendre there. But yeah, he fights a giant beaver in the next issue as well. But yeah, political scandal with Howard in a duck with Beverly, or in a bathtub with Beverly. We should mention that Beverly and Howard, they're completely platonic. They're not having the sex. They're just,
right.
Because he even though she's smoking hot, he thinks she's gross because she's a hairless ape. She's not a duck.
Right.
You know? So
yeah.
Doesn't matter. So there you go. Howard the Duck. I got to tell you, Michael, I loved every second of this. I thought this was tremendous.
I gotta say, I liked it too, and like it kind of makes you want to go back and reread these, like read the whole series.
Yeah, I wonder why you didn't like this the first time you read it. You know what I mean? Like this is amazing.
I was probably it wasn't what I was expecting, I guess. But like I said, Gene Colan is so good here, and it feels more like Mad Magazine or something, you know, where there's so much going on in each panel, and you have to really kind of notice like the body language, like the gag of her like wrestling him is like so funny, and her holding him up, you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, because he's like upside down by his legs. He's not in any like.
Right.
She's in no danger whatsoever, but she's acting like he's killing her, you know, like Mad Duck.
Right,
Mad Duck.
right.
Yeah, and Howard as a character is tremendous because he's real cynical and a smart ass, and yet he's also a coward. Like he wanted, he didn't want to fight those guys with the guns or anything. He just wanted to get the hell out of there and run. And yeah, it's just tremendous. I loved every second of this book. I don't know. It was so well written, so sharp. And again, 44 years ago, and it reads like you could have written it today. Like the exact same things you're talking about, political corruption and everything. Just so good. I don't know, Michael. I could be given my first 10. I don't know.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Well, the thing is
I just can't think of one thing that I would change about it.
He's a smart writer. Like I don't know. I've always said at this point he was probably the best writer in the industry.
That's what Jim Shooter said when they asked him why he fired Gerber. He says, listen, he's one of he didn't say the best, but he's like, he's one of the best writers in comics, but he's just late and he's suing us. So I'm not going to pay him to sue us.
Right.
But yeah, this is really impressive stuff. I mean, like I really can't, usually when we do these, like, there's a lot of hokey stuff, like little terrible stuff, and like this plot hole here, this plot hole there. But everything just makes sense. It's well paced. There's cause and effect here. The characters are great. The art is tremendous. There's nothing I would change about this book.
Right. I should also point out that Steve Gerber did do a few issues of Superman. He did a Phantom Zone miniseries, and he was one of the guys that pitched the Superman revamp to DC. And I believe him and maybe Frank Miller, but they picked John Byrne.
Oh man, so that's a swing and a miss, right?
Yeah, that would have been amazing to have him with Superman.
Yeah, I don't know. But after reading this, I'm definitely going to go back and read all the other Howard the Ducks.
Awesome.
At least
I gotta say, I think I'm going to as well too. Yeah.
Man, this is so good.
Now I regret selling them to my friend Ricky for $1 each. But anyway.
Yeah, again, my favorite panel is the receptionist fighting with Howard, and then Beverly holding Howard up to read the phone book. It's just so subtly good. Man, I don't know. Because Beverly looks great here as well. Just tremendous stuff. Howard the Duck. Very impressed, Michael, by Howard the Duck.
Who would have thought, eh? Yeah.
Now, that makes the movie even worse, though, right? Because if this character is this good, doing this much important stuff, like relevant stories, and then that movie is just a load of crap.
Well, I mean, and I like those two writers because they wrote the dialogue, a lot of the dialogue for Star Wars, and they wrote Temple of Doom, which I love. But yeah, it just shows no respect for the source material, right? Like to me, if Howard the Duck came out today, it would probably fit in better as like an MTV cartoon or something, some weird oddball thing. You know?
I heard talk that Howard the Duck was going to get a cartoon on some one of the subscription services, or like the Dazzler was getting one. Howard.
Really?
There were 4 of them, and I can't remember the others. But I think it came out like a year ago. They said that, but I don't know if they're still doing it.
Really? Yeah, I think because as soon as you put him in a movie, you got to spend money, you got to have a budget, and you got to make it. You lose all the political satire, right? You just shave off all the rough edges, and it would just wreck it. It's better to keep it like a low budget cartoon, like South Park or something, with limited animation, and you can just focus on the writing.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm trying to see if I can Google anything about a cartoon coming up, but Marvel kills off Howard the Duck, Tigra, and Dazzler at Hulu. I guess Hulu's going to do it. Those sons of bitches.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'm definitely going to read the Star Wars issue for sure before I do anything. That's number 23. I'm going to read that one and go from there.
I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to start at number 1.
Go. Actually, you could go back. You could read Man-Thing. There's only a few of those issues too, right?
Yeah, I suppose. But it really wasn't Howard the Duck there then. I mean, he was a wisecracking duck, but he wasn't like tackling society, satirizing things. And trying to read this. Keep stalling, Michael, while I read this.
Keep stalling? Okay. I'll just say that, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other things that Steve Gerber has done. Like, the thing I noticed about him is that when I was growing up watching G.I. Joe, I always noticed, I'm like, okay, am I crazy, or is this show actually really funny? Does it actually satirize our society and politics? And sure enough,
I wonder if Gerber, do you know if he wrote that episode where Cobra was taking over the youth of America through like the music and pop culture? Did you remember that issue or that episode?
Oh, I think I just rewatched that one. Lights, Camera, Cobra, or
I want to say Gerber probably wrote that one.
Well, he was the story editor, so he probably had his finger in every pie on G.I. Joe, But yeah, like it was, and that's the thing is now that I know him better, I'm like, yeah, that's totally his sense of humor. So that must have been where it came from.
Oh, Mike L. Howard the Duck was supposed to be written by Kevin Smith and Aqua Teen Hunger Force's Dave Willis.
Yeah, that probably would have worked.
Yet they killed it. Sons of bitches.
Oh,
they're moving ahead with MODOK and Hit Monkey.
What?
Yeah. Why would
Why?
you scrap Howard the Duck to go with MODOK and Hit Monkey? I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
Well, anyway, this is according to an article written like January 25th of this year, so who knows? It could have changed by then.
Right.
But yeah, the pandemic may have shifted everything again. Who knows?
Yep.
But yeah, so no Howard the Duck cartoon. That sucks. All right. So there it is, Howard the Duck. You know what, Mike? I'm giving it the 10 out of 10. First 10 I'm ever given. Yep. Because like I said, there's nothing I would change in this. The art is tremendous. The writing is so smart. It's just perfect the way it is. All except for that yellow thing on the front cover. If that wasn't there, it'd be flawless.
Wow, that can easily be fixed in the reprint, right?
Yeah, just get some white out in there. Put it over there. But yeah, so I'm going 10 out of 10. The first 10 I've ever given, and I'm giving it to a duck.
I will give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Definitely solid. I regret selling them all for $1, and I'm definitely going to go back and reread them. For sure.
To show you how much I love it, Mike, it gets a 10 without. I don't think anyone threw a punch in this whole issue.
Well, there was a wrestling match and there was shooting. Yeah, but I guess you're right. There was no punching. Yeah.
Yeah, without a punch, you get to 10. Huh. I mean, I just think it's perfect for what it is. Like, there's nothing to change. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
All right, Howard the Duck, highly recommended. So what do you do next week, Michael?
You're not going to believe this. If you can, this is unprecedented. Another Gene Colan comic book.
What?
Can you believe it? Pure coincidence. Pure coincidence. Can you guess what it is?
Well, it is October.
That's right.
And Mike Al has a love for celebrating holidays.
That's right.
So I'm going to guess Tomb of Dracula.
You got it. Tomb of Dracula, number 12, by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan.
And this was considered a really good title in the 70s for Marvel, right? Like in terms of
That's right.
critics, they really loved Tomb of Dracula, correct?
Yes, and Marv Wolfman started a few issues earlier, but he said this was the issue where he finally felt like he hit his stride, and so that's why I picked this one.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. I think this is is this 3 Gene Colans in 4 weeks? Is that where we're at?
I was looking back. Yeah, because we did Gene Colan for issue 50 or number 56. So that's 56, 59, and 60. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not. That?
Yeah, that's a pretty good run there. We should keep track of. I bet you what's his name? Roy Thomas has got to be the writer that we've covered the most, right?
I don't know. Like we mentioned Roy Thomas a lot because he's tied into everything when we go to these backgrounds of books and stuff. But in terms of Roy Thomas just writing, I think he may have only done 3 that we've done.
Okay.
That still might be the most. I don't know.
Yeah. Have to go back and check. But anyway, so yeah, Tomb of Dracula, number 12.
What year is that, by the way? Do you know?
Let me see here.
It's the 70s, right?
Oh, yeah, it's the 70s. Yeah, I don't know what year exactly.
It's probably around 76.
Price, something like that, yeah.
So...
But yeah, I'm super pumped for this. Yep.
There you go.
That wraps up another episode of Flea Market Fantasy. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Stitcher, iTunes, all under Comic Book Syndicate. You can also find us on the Comic Book Syndicate website. Each week we do a different Bronze Age comic book. 1 week Mike Dell picks, 1 week Mike L picks. That's me. And so until next Tuesday, disperse!